evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Trenton Public Schools candidate debate. My name is Bill Adams. I am a consultant with the Edward Group, also known as Hazard Young and Atia, or HYA. I'm the East Coast president for the company and for that division that does the executive searches. On behalf of the Board of Education, we thank you for your interest, for coming out tonight, for your desire to hear the candidates that the board has brought forth. We do have a number of board members in the audience, and we certainly thank them for their participation tonight. As the board set up this process, they wanted to provide each candidate approximately a half hour following the rules that the League of Women Voters usually follow in terms of their protocol. Each candidate will be here individually. The other is sequestered, and they will have an opportunity for an opening 4-minute statement and then a 3-minute closing statement. I've received approximately 17 different questions from different stakeholders, both by the internet and by people who filled in 3x5 cards. In truth, we'll time this, you'll probably only get to 10 or 12 of those questions. I've also tried to consolidate questions so that as many stakeholder questions as possible can be answered across a broad spectrum. Some are very general, some are much more specific. So with that, I'd like to have our first candidate, Dr. Sergio Paez, provide an opening statement as to who he is as a person and who he is as an educational leader. So with that, Dr. Paez, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor for me to be one of the finalists for this position. I define myself as an educator. I've been an educator for 21 years. An immigrant who came to Florida with my family back in the 80s. And as many English language learners, I struggled to make it to where I am today. However, I was successful and I was very lucky to make it to finish my doctorate degree and be in education. I want to start with me, but with one thought in mind. I know I have only 4 minutes, so I'm going to use this for an essential thought that in my mind is driving me as an educator. I believe in social justice, and I believe many of us believe in social justice. What happened with that statement is very powerful to me, because over the years, I'm going to cite Martin Luther King said that many African Americans have been given a check with insufficient funds. I believe that public education writes that check. I believe that as an educator, I need to be able to open the door for that opportunity for kids to be able to be exercising the right to be educated, to be able to finish their high school, free right to be educated, and to be able to do it in the best way possible. So as an educator, my first job as a bilingual teacher in 2nd grade, then as an administrator, assistant principal, as a director of language development, as an assistant superintendent in Worcester for 6 years, as my last job as a superintendent in Holyoke Public Schools. My only commitment has been to be able to pay it forward. I have to be able to make the conditions necessary in a district that needs someone like me with the vision, with the capacity, with the experience, with the knowledge, to be able to make it better. My record is very clear about what I have accomplished, in Holyoke in particular, because in only 2 years we were able to make significant changes. So again, I'm very honored to be here. I'm looking forward to having a meaningful discussion with you. I have very exciting meetings and conversations with a lot of people in the last couple of days. So I'm looking forward to answering the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paez. Before I give you the first question, I do want to mention that there are feedback forms available. One for each. It actually is front to back, so you can do both candidates. The board is asking for feedback that we will collect from people that participate in this event so that they can have a feel for whether you believe the person is the person who can bring Trenton and the Trenton public education system to the next level so that all students have an opportunity to succeed. So please, before you leave, complete that. With that, Dr. Paez, I'm going to give you the first question, and I'll be reading the questions because I need to read them exactly the same to both candidates. The first question came in from a stakeholder, and essentially what they're asking is this. As you're aware, there's a concern about the migration of students from the Trenton Public Schools due to charter schools, due to schools of choice, due to other options. This migration has had a significant impact on the school, especially when it's financial well-being. And it's had somewhat of an impact and is having an impact on the full range of programs and services that are available to students. So as a result of this migration, one of the stakeholders put it this way, and then I'm going to modify the bottom line part, but I think it's important to hear this because this came in from a number of residents. The district has some excellent programs that charter schools do not offer, and some charter schools have some excellent programs as well. Some of our students that attend charter schools also participate in our athletic programs and our extra-school activities. So the writer asked, well, is there a collaboration needed with charters to see that those students are served as well? And then the second part of that is, what are you going to do to keep students in the Trenton schools? So how I'm going to actually ask the question for the response is this. You've got the background. What is your plan to keep and attract students to remain in or to enter the Trenton school district?
I actually agree that that's one of the biggest challenges we have in Trenton. The competition, for lack of a better word, of charter schools or school choice or students and families going to another district is one of the biggest challenges we have. I think that with that, competition has to be how I'm competing in the best way possible to ensure that our parents and families stay with us and don't look for other places to go. So one of the best ways to attack that, and I would have a very comprehensive plan for the district, but we need to have short-term and long-term goals for that plan. How can I develop my schools and my district as the school of choice for our district? It's very important. So if we all keep in mind that we all here for the right reason of helping our kids and our community, we have to be able to advertise what we do. Professionally, as a superintendent, I have to be able to say, I'm proud to have our kids in my neighborhood to come to the district school. And I have to be able to advertise and sell it to parents that just move into the district. But I also have to be conscious of the fact that competition is extremely important, not only in Trenton, in America and in the world. So what can I do positioning my district as the school of choice with innovative programs that are going to be attracting parents to stay and develop initiatives that no one else has? Not because I want to attack the charter schools, but I want to compete with the best possible environments to have the best exposure to our kids into a school district that is there for us. So innovative programs, I mean, if we talk about the high school, is the STEM track, science, technology, engineering, and math, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, bilingualism, 21st century skills. That is not defined by the Common Core or defined by all the things that we have for sale. We need to define what the global economy is telling us as a district, as citizens of this world, this country, for the world, to be able to make it happen. So when we start looking at what is a gifted and talented program in the pre-K, to be able to expand that every year to ensure that families don't have to go to other places to get what we need to offer here is very important. So I think my short-term goal is to make sure that we set the tone in my first year to understand that we're serious, that I'm committed to be here, that I'm committed to develop a vision with everyone. Because Trenton is what it is today because all of us contribute to what it is today. If we want to improve the public schools, it's going to be with everybody's contribution. So that first year, the first step of short-term goals is to be able to start developing innovative programs to ensure families stay with us. It's a public relations campaign to highlight the great work of our teachers today. They do an amazing work, and nobody talks about it. We talk about the performance standards, about dropouts, about excellence of kids, about we use the expertise of our teachers to start advertising the wonderful things that happen in our district. So it's a public relations campaign starting with me. Starting with a competition. The competition is great, and I've been competing my whole life. The reason I ended up where I ended up is because I'm very competitive. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be asking that question many times. How can we be number one? How can we be the best? How can we do something together to ensure that we sell this district and make this district the school of choice for our community? The long-term goals is how can I make an investment? The more students we have, and we have an average of 323 students leaving every year, with that projections in the last 10 years, I can tell you we are going to have another $4 million cuts next year because we continue having the exodus of kids. So for me to stop that, to start setting the district to be able to have innovative programs for now, for the next 10 years. And it's very important that you understand it's not because of me, it's because we have to do it. And it's not about me being here as your superintendent, it's because we have to set the structures to make those things happen. To close that, in Holyoke, we initiated programs, very innovative programs in Holyoke, that when I left, they remain. Those programs are still in place today. And for me, that's very important. It's honor to my work or the work of the people of Holyoke when we develop that. I'm hoping that I can be able to do that with the people of Trenton. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is certainly a difficult one that the district is currently facing. You're aware that the district is currently dealing with a very sensitive budget issue, which is significantly impacting staff morale. It's potentially can affect the environment that it would be conducive so that all students can succeed. We don't expect you to respond specifically to that budget challenge, but given this type of challenge, how would you prepare the board to make decisions on politically sensitive or potentially controversial issues such as this?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing in the budget process is that cannot be a surprise. We have to be able to be transparent with the process. I just said to you, 323 credits less every year for the last 10 years. Well, being transparent is telling you that equals $4 million or more. How can we have those conversations? It's my job as a superintendent to tell them how we're going to assume those cuts when we have to still employ great teachers that have been giving us their lives to be working with us. It's extremely important. So we need to create something that is called a prototype. Class size to remain low, essential services to be in place. What is the essential? What are our core values as a district that we need to maintain in the process to then talk about budget decisions? I definitely don't want to see things because of money figure. I want to see things because are the right things to do. And if we're looking at the right thing to do because we're preserving the conditions for teachers to be successful, to educate our kids, our future generation of Trentonians, it's extremely important to me. So if we maintain the focus on what we need to do every day to serve kids in our community, that's how the budget is being presented. My experience has been cutting budget, absolutely, but it was so presented in such a transparent way that it was very little questions about it. And obviously I talked to the unions, and I have to work with everybody affected by it. I don't want surprises. And I know that when we have to cut positions, it's the life of someone's livelihood, someone's family affected by that. So I'm very sensitive to that. And as the top educator in the district, I need to make sure that I work with everybody to understand that it's coming. It's not going to be the week before. It's going to be a process following the calendar that we have to be able to have the public hearings, so the open hearings about the budget cuts. But if we do this right, we're going to stop the exodus of kids, and the budget cuts will be stopping, hopefully, because we stop that exodus of kids from the district.
Thank you. What is your plan and experience to build community partnerships?
I have vast experience. Massachusetts gave us an award in Holyoke. 4 districts got that award in the state. Holyoke was one of them. The initiative that we did with partnerships with 28 entities that aligned their services with ours to make sure that everybody was looking for into the project, which was early literacy campaign. If we're going to change the early literacy or the dropouts or whatever we're working on, it has to be everybody moving in the same direction. Now, working with community organizations is very important because everybody, when you think about it, everybody wants to help us. And I ask this question, how are you helping us if we remain underperforming or we not progressing? If we're talking to the Boys and Girls Club, United Way, Girls Inc., you name it, I'm expecting those organizations to align to our vision to help our kids because they service the kids. They go to the after-school programs, they provide services, they work with the families. That coherence of services is very important to me. So, and I was able to work independently with those meetings, and I challenged them, in a sense aggressively, but it was a call of action. The call of action for everybody in the community, either Worcester, 25,000 students, or Holyoke, about 5,500 students. We are all responsible for what happened to our kids, and I'm expecting those organizations to define help for me, for us, because if we are part of a partnership, What part are you doing and what is my part? If it's a partnership, collaboration, we need to define it. In some cases, go to the board, their boards, to align their goals and objectives with what we do. So for me, the collaboration, building that agreement among the consensus. And that goes with political stakeholders, with parents, with teachers, with consultants, with universities, with you name it. It's tons of organizations that are always, especially in urban settings, they want to help us. We remain the same year after year. So my call of action or my expectation for all those organizations to align their vision with ours to be able to transform the Trenton Public Schools.
Thank you. Under your leadership, what is your vision of the Trenton Public School system, and where do you believe the district will be if you're the next superintendent 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now?
Well, it's a great question. I think the first year for me has to be setting the tone, building the trust, and making everyone understand that we here because I'm committed to be here. And this is a question that came up about the other day. Are you here to stay? This is staying in stone. If I'm making a commitment to be here because I'm committed to come to this city, to make it the best urban district in New Jersey or the country. I'm very ambitious, and I'm telling you, if I'm going to be doing that in 1 year, I will have a comprehensive strategic plan that we all develop within that first year to say what will happen in 3 years, what will happen in 5 years. What I'm expecting is that we decrease the dropout rates, that attendance is better, that suspension expulsions are reduced, that all of our kids are ready to college and career ready, that they are, even though the standardized testing is not a point of reference for me, because it's a point of contention and it's beyond standardized testing. But it's how are we educating kids to be ready for college and career? How can I be responsible to a family who's entrusted me with their child to be able to bring that child to college or whatever dreams or hopes he or she has? For me, it's very important that we delineate a plan. That at that point, all of you say we contribute to that plan, regardless of having a superintendent or regardless of having whatever. We still have that plan. So a strategic plan for 3 or 5 years is very important. My first year, build the trust relationships and set the tone for the future for this community, for the city.
The Trenton School District has a significant special education population. What is your leadership experience in creating special education programming opportunities, specifically in district, and then any community partnerships or grants that you've used to further develop such programs?
Well, the special education, as you know, is the most complicated field in education because it's not one set of conditions. It's multiple set of conditions that are preventing students from having equal access to meaningful education. So when we look at the spectrum of learning disabilities, it's multiple things that we need to do to be able to improve. Now, having 20% spent when the state is 5 points less, or to have over or under representation of students in special education, sometimes becomes the only solution for students' struggles in our public schools. So one of the first things I would do, which I did in Houston, and it was very successful, I was head of the child study department, is to be able to develop the connections with the schools to be able to do interventions before we trigger an evaluation. Once we determine that it's a learning disability. But that process is very important because we have to change how we educate kids before we label them with the condition. Once we do that, and it's accurate, we need to surround the student with the conditions to be able to be successful. As expensive as it could be. That goes into the outside placement. We have a tremendous amount of money that we put in outside placement. And I heard today about outsourcing as well. I don't believe in that. I believe that we have the talent, the capacity to be able to bring kids back to the system with the right support systems to be able to do that. That connects with the next part of the question about grants and additional resources. We need to partner with universities and colleges, apply for grants at the federal and state level to be able to bring those resources. Because to be honest with you, we need experts who are experts on those fields to be able to help our families and our kids. But we need to be able to know how. And I have the experience, I have the knowledge to be able to make that happen, but we need to control how many kids get into that environment before, if it's over on the representation. But the special education is very important to me. It's very complex because it's one child at a time. It's an individual individualized educational plan. I can say it's for everybody because it's not a blanket issue. It's how we develop some programs specifically for that condition. So I'll be happy to do that. I've been developing those programs, and as you know, in Holyoke, we have this issue with one of our schools. In that particular school, we changed the provider who was outsourcing because there was excessive number of students. We eliminated services for that program. We brought our own people. We did the sensitivity training, de-escalation training. We did the restraining training. We did everything we could. However, it wasn't enough. So I'm going to end with that. In the spectrum of special education, in some cases, all kids, is never enough. So I would love to be able to tackle this issue, regulate how it's implemented, and be able to surround our kids with the best tools to be able to be successful.
Thank you. One of the concerns often that we hear from staff when the new superintendent comes in is how you determine the strengths and challenges of the Trenton Public School System, and who would you utilize and what information would you use as you look at the strengths and weaknesses to take the district to the next level?
Absolutely. So it has to be, I will use some sophisticated term, the triangulation analysis. It can't be just one standardized test, also one referenced by someone. I have to evaluate this from 3 points of view to be analyzing in a specific program or service. It cannot just be an anecdotal or historical story. We need to assess our programs. We need to do audits. And we have audits that we know. Non-compliance is CPR by the Comprehensive Program Review from the state or the federal level that is forcing us to do the right thing. For me, in those cases, it's embarrassing. We all here to do what is best for kids. However, we had the federal government telling us that we violated someone's rights. As an educator, that's embarrassing. How can I do something in the schools every day to assess what we do, to ensure that what we do is working? And if it's not working over time, I need to ask that tough question. As a new person coming in, it's a tough question. How do you tell me the way to do it is working? How you do summer program after summer program after summer program, and we still haven't improved? Or why we implemented this program and it still doesn't give us any results compared with the comparison group? I need to evaluate in multiple ways all of our programs and services before I start thinking about changing anything. And I'm going to end with this. Less is more. I'm not thinking about coming in with all the things that I know and start telling you this is the best way to do it. I'd rather work with what we have, work with my leadership teams, with the schools to understand what we have, and start making connections and corrections as we move on. But it's not going to be a new set of changes that teachers are already trying to manage one new system of curriculum, and then we have another one because that's the next best thing. Less is more. I want to do an inventory. I want to spend the time in the schools talking to all of you, teachers, stakeholders, to be able to come up with a true assessment of how our programs and services are being delivered.
Thank you. What is the most unpopular leadership decision you've had to make, and how did you address the reaction to that decision?
I would like to say no, but obviously I make a lot of decisions that were unpopular. I think from the commissioner's perspective, let me use that one. From the commissioner's perspective in Massachusetts, it was very unpopular for me to challenge them when they were trying to take over Holyoke Public Schools. It was daring because I was a rookie superintendent in Holyoke saying to the commissioner, I don't believe that you need to take us over. I want to continue with what we're doing and we're going to do it right. That unfortunately cost me my job because we lost. The performance of Holyoke was so chronic for so many years that despite of being successful in so many aspects, they took us over. So what I think should have been a better approach for me would be to actually challenge the commissioner to work with us to make it happen. Because I don't believe the state, and I know we have someone in the state in our district. I would like to be working with the state instead of against the state. And I think that would be something that I regret. I would challenge the state to show us how to do it. And respectfully to Massachusetts, I don't believe they have the capacity to work in an urban environment with the complexities that we know we have to be then take us over. So I think that would be an example of that decision.
Thank you. Describe your leadership experience in working with other governmental agencies, such as the legislature, executive officers, or municipal government.
In my position, it's very important, even though politics is a big part of what we do, I have to work with the mayor's office, city council, with the governor if necessary, to be able to bring initiatives that are going to impact our district. A lot of assignments of either projects or funds happen at a political level. So I would say a couple of those big initiatives, I mentioned already the early literacy campaign with the mayor of Holyoke, but in Worcester we created a collaboration about refugees and newcomers into our city. We were able to create a coalition of services in Worcester, a very large city, 25,000 students, the second largest city in Massachusetts. And we were able to come up with a set of recommendations to improve the quality of education for newcomers in our district. I believe that that collaboration was because we spent the time to work with the politicians, the legislatures, people who were invested in the community. Before that becomes a reason to criticize the failure, we were able to turn it around. And we opened a school, New Citizen Center, for refugees that came into Worcester from different places, parts of the world. And I think that was in part of the commitment. And the education, because you educate people as you progress doing that. And I think it was a good example of how we can work with them. My role as a superintendent is to put Trenton in the map. And one of the reasons of being here is strategically we could be challenging the status quo, regional or regionally, and say we can be the best urban district in the state. How can the politicians and everybody else help me make that difference? So hopefully with some of the experience that I have, I'll be able to make that happen.
Thank you. What evidence or examples can you cite that would indicate your success in getting board, staff, and community support for educational programs?
But nothing could be more evident than the movement in Holyoke to preserve our condition as a district. At the beginning, if you imagine a district who was still chronically underperforming, working with the unions, working with the parents, working with the community, working with everybody, Chamber of Commerce, the Innovation Center, all kinds of people. It was very difficult at the beginning to align everybody in the same direction. Now, it's a lot of energy in every of those components because everybody wants to do the right thing. But be able to move everybody in the same direction is very important. And it was very evident in that situation because despite all the differences that we might have, or that we had, we were able to come together as a district. And 1,300 people testified in favor of my work and what we're trying to do to be able to preserve our district. Everybody was mobilized, but it took a lot of time for me to be able to sell the message, to be consistent with the message, to be transparent with the message, to be able to show how we're making progress. And that evidence of success, yield success, is very important. We opened many programs that were very innovative. And people came around saying, okay, this is the right direction. People stopped being cynical about it. It was a lot of cynicism. Oh, that is not going to work. It's another project. It's another thing. 2-3 years this will pass. But that didn't happen. Those programs are still in place today. People build trust. We build trust. We build a good reputation serious about what we do, what we did. And I think everybody came around. I think that's a great example of how that was done.
Thank you. What problems, if any, have you experienced in meeting state and federal special education mandates? And if any, how did you resolve the problem?
Well, we always have CPRs, comprehensive program reviews, coming in with mistakes or some corrective actions requirements. My experience in I would use Worcester more than Holyoke because I was there longer. Those CPR issues were someone in the desk answering questions without impacting what happened in the ground. And what I said to everybody is like, I don't want to report this back to the state. Actually, I want to do it. So when we started looking at what was the meaning of saying that teachers will be trained on techniques for integration of scaffolding or differentiated instruction or addressing the needs of every learner in the classroom, we actually have to do it. So I engaged the whole district on doing less, more, but it was more significant in regards to professional development that was ongoing, sustained, with evidence of making a difference, instead of just typing a CPR response and sending it back. I think that was very evident for the SPED department. We had great success with that, the SSP process, student support teams in the schools making the changes for supporting to support the students in the classrooms. And I think the CPR was a conduit to get to that place. But we did less in regards to just doing one response. Because it's by cycles. I don't know if here in New Jersey, but it's a 3-year cycle and mid-year cycle. And they come back in a year and a half, and it's almost the same findings as the last time. Well, how about we do it right? Not because they're telling us, but because it's the right thing to do. So for me, it's very important that we mean what we say. And what we did on those CPRs in Worcester was very positive, and I think we have much better services because of it.
Thank you. As we come to a close for your participation in the forum tonight, please take up to 3 minutes to describe why you should be the next superintendent of the Trenton Public Schools. And a little caveat, where do you expect to be 5 years from now?
Here. That's the easy part of it. Okay. No, if I'm a candidate for the superintendent, I'm committed to make it here. Obviously, as you imagine, that has some serious conversation with my wife, serious conversation with my daughter, who's junior in high school, my son is in college. But what I do is so serious to me that it's my life, it's my profession, it's what I do. It's no work. 24/7. I'll be here doing all kinds of things, and you can see my website in which I'm very involved with students, playing sports or doing activities with the community. I want to be here. If I'm making that commitment to be here, it's because I believe that I'm the right candidate for the job. I trained my whole life to be here. I've been very careful about my own background as a teacher, as an administrator, as a leader who understands what happens in urban education. I don't want to be a suburban teacher or a superintendent in suburban environments. I know that the American dream is open to everyone. I am the American dream. You are the American dream. But I want my kids to say the same thing. That my dream is to be in Trenton Public Schools and to go as far as I want to, because it is the place to be. So my commitment personally is to open the door for many, many kids that like me were able to make it. I'm committed to be here. Going back to the original point of the 5 years, I'll be happy to be here for the next 5 years.
Thank you. Because we want to be fair to both candidates in the audience, the half hour is up, and I'm going to invite the second candidate to come in. Dr. Paez will leave, but if you will be around afterwards, I'm going to ask both candidates to be here for anyone that may not have had a chance to meet them earlier today personally on a one-to-one basis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really an honor to be here. Thanks.
Remind you each that you do have forms, and we are going to bring the other candidate right in. Thank you. It's my opportunity now and pleasure to introduce the second candidate, Dr. Marguerite van der Wijngaard. I will be calling her Dr. V because it's simply easier for me to get that out as we move along. Dr. V, one of the things that we'd like to do in the first 4 minutes or so is have you tell us something about who you are as a person and who you are as an educational leader so that the community can better understand you personally.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know that you have other things you probably would rather do, including painting fingernails and things like that. But this particular thing this evening, this particular night is incredibly important, as the school board eventually will make a decision around leadership with the input. So I do appreciate all of you being here all day long and then further into the evening, so thank you for that. So the question about who I am is I come from a long line of educators, which is a phenomenal place to be. And as a result of that, I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a teacher somehow. What I didn't know as I progressed in my career was how I could have a better impact to meet children's needs, especially children of color, especially the children who are African American, which I am, as well as children who are second language speakers or native speakers of another country. And so out of that came a desire for me to figure out where that is. And I truly talk to everyone about how I know I'm blessed, because as a leader, I have the opportunity to build the capacity of everyone who is with me in order for us to change the organization in which I serve. That's my job. My job is to advocate on behalf of children and families. My job is to bring resources to ensure that we have what we need to succeed. And then all of those things combined means I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet, because my application, my calling, and my profession are wrapped in being superintendent. And so why be superintendent in Trenton is because Trenton is a place that I believe I can call home. It's a place where I believe that my daughter can thrive. It's a place where I believe that I would be able to thrive as a leader, because you have so many pieces in place, I've discovered, that people are willing to partner together as long as we're willing to be a good partner. That is a magical fit in a nice set of words ringing as a newcomer to the organization and a newcomer to Trenton. So for me, I partner when I can, I manage when I must, and I build coalitions and partnerships to ensure that our kids have what they need to succeed.
Thank you. This next question is a very important concern to the community. As you're aware, there is concern about the migration of students away from the Trenton School District to charter schools, schools of choice, and even to other options. This migration has had a significant financial impact on the school district and on the district's ability to provide a full range of programs and services so that all students have the opportunity to succeed. As a result of this migration, a number of stakeholders raised this question, and one in particular put it in a two-part way. I'm going to give that to you as a background and then condense it for an actual response. The district has some outstanding, excellent programs that the charter schools don't offer. The charter schools have some programs and practices that the district does not offer. We also have some of our charter school students who participate in extracurricular athletic programs in the district. So there's some concern about all students getting the services that they should get at their Trenton residence. So with that said, the question is raised, what do you do about the collaboration side? And on the other hand, what do you do to retain students in the Trenton school system? So here's the actual question with that background. What is your plan to keep and attract students to remain in and/or to enter the Trenton public school system?
In a nutshell? Okay, I got it. As I've talked about today, it's a two-pronged process. First of all, we have to make sure that our staff has the ability to reach and teach children. We start to demonstrate excellence in the classroom, resulting in student achievement being raised. So that's number one. Number two, we have to have a plan for how we're going to partner with those schools. Now, the partnership can be very difficult because the charter schools will perceive us as the enemy, and we are, by perception, perceived the other way. So we have to decide that how we're going to build that coalition with those leaders from those charter schools to ensure that those best practices that we both share, our students have access to all of it. At the same time, we have to have a strategy politically to ensure that we have a way in which we start to work toward being a partner with our legislators and telling our story so that those schools that are not reaching children are not continuing to be chartered. That's an important piece of work we have to do. And we have to sell our story about what we do better than whatever that charter school is that's up for renewal. Through that process, you have to have evidence that we can do that better, and this is additional work that we would do if that charter school closed and the children came back to the district. So it's a two-pronged process. And you have to provide the infrastructure so that we can learn from each other, and at the same time you have to create the political will to ensure that those schools that are not successful, we are able to get the children back into our program in a succinct manner. Both of those have to be done in concert. Both of those I've had experience in other districts, and it's worked very well in my past work.
Thank you. As you are aware, the district is currently dealing with a very sensitive budget issue, which can significantly impact staff morale, and at the same time, it can create an environment that may not be conducive so that every student has the opportunity to succeed. We don't expect you to respond specifically to the budget challenge, but there are some challenges very similar. So given that kind of challenge, how would you prepare the board to make a decision on politically sensitive or potentially controversial issues?
Well, first of all, not only does the board have to know this information all along the way, but so does the community at large. And so I've always created processes, especially in our budget season, in which we are in the community talking about those budget implications. And so if we have an implication of a budget due to a contract issue, you'll be candid about that and then say, these are the reasons why, and this is what we're going to do next. So you have to be honest about that. The other piece you have to do is make sure that your building leaders can lead that conversation. We know that families don't get information from me, as much as I love to think that families do. The point of contact is the school, the principal, and the teacher. So we have to make sure that all along the way, those leaders know what the issues are, know what's happening in the process, and through that, we again inform the board in a similar manner. There should be no surprises at the end of that. This conversation should have been held over months in public conversations as well as conversations at the building level, so that at this juncture, no one acts as if this was a surprise. And if we, in the meantime, have other ideas on how we can address those situations, we've gathered that information from the community, we've worked with the board with that information, and the board can then make a decision, a difficult one, but they can make a decision with as much information as possible as well as community input. Those two together will not solve the issue of the pain of a budget reduction. The pain will still be there, but the understanding will be clear. And if we have clear understanding and communication, two ways, between the community, myself, and the board, it will be a seamless process. No one will be able to argue about the process because they know what the result is going to be.
Thank you. What is your plan and experience in building community partnerships?
It's actually, sorry, did you have plan B? Did you have, it's actually one of the things that I actually have done very well. And I have through Albany for sure, I've created a network of partners for the school district. If people say, we want you to show up, I show up. I created fireside chats, ensuring that if families could get 10 people in their living room, Dr. V showed up and asked 3 questions, and we talked about what was working and not working in the district. So those are things that I've done very well and very strong, especially in the city of Albany, from the mayor's office to the Chamber of Commerce to people in their homes to social agencies and other agencies. And I would point to Albany Promise, the Strive Network model that we have that's cradle to career, as a key leverage point in demonstrating that community engagement.
Thank you. Under your leadership, what is your vision for the Trenton Public School System, and where do you see the district 1, 3, and 5 years from now?
Can you say the first part again, the vision for the district, and then tell me what the 1 and 3 and 5 means?
Under your leadership, what is your vision of the Trenton School Public System, and where do you see the district in 1, 3, and 5 years?
Got it, thank you. Well, obviously, my vision for the district is that we're going to be the best district in the state of New Jersey. It's not going to happen in 1, 3, or 5 years. So that's my caveat. But I do expect us to demonstrate within 3 years some gains in academics, some gains in discipline, meaning a reduction of suspensions and reductions. I expect to see an increase in the staff attendance. I expect to see an increase in student attendance. Those are my expectations, because if children are not in schools, then they can't learn. And if staff is not in front of their children, we can't engage our students in learning. And so between all of those pieces together, I expect us to see a move in 3 years. I expect us to see a better move in 5, and then from that point forward, you should see a trajectory that is moving upward in the right directions. It does take between 5 and 7 years for those things to happen. But I think with the board, myself setting academic goals and behavior goals and all those pieces right now, we should be able to hit those 1, 3, and 5-year benchmarks.
Thank you. The Trenton School District has a significant special education population. What is your leadership experience in creating special education in-district programming, community partnerships, and grants for such programming?
I only drive grants if it meets the need of a specific district. So I'm not one of those that runs to get money for money's sake. It has to be targeted. Our targeted grants for special education services was around the mental health model, which we were struggling with in my district. We don't have enough providers to work on the mental health side, and so we had to build partnerships in order for that to happen. And in order for that to happen, we had to go after a couple of grants, and we were able to get them. And so we're able to partner with our county health services, social agencies, etc., to provide the services for our special ed children. So that's one of those experiences. Second, we charge the special ed program to bring programs back to the district. This isn't willy-nilly, meaning any program at all. It means we had to identify the programs we could do effectively, efficiently in meeting the needs of students. And so as those programs are returning, we had to make sure that we could measure some results for that. As a result of that, I know we've saved between $3 and $5 million annually as those programs have returned. Again, it's a strategy over time. It's not 1 year, go out and return all of these programs. It isn't the way to do business. But in partnership with special ed, we created the timeline, and then they were able to, year over year, return students to the district to the tune of about $3 to $5 million in savings.
Thank you. One of the concerns whenever new leadership is appointed is that there will be change, and everything going before is going to change. So how would you determine the strengths and challenges of the Trenton Public Schools, and how would you utilize this information? Who would you get the information from to take the district and its students to the next level?
Well, one of the things that you will know about me is I actually am a very quiet person, believe it or not. And I like to listen, and I like to read, and I like to learn. And so I will probably not make any changes, especially in that first year, and especially because right now, I doubt if you would have any funding that would change something dramatically at this juncture. But in that listening, I'm paying attention to the issues, the salient issues. I'm looking for those issues that we can address. I'm looking for short-term and long-term solutions, and I'm gathering that information from the current staff, the school board, community members, faith-based organizations, anyone who wants to give information to me, to the district, about the district, we're going to talk about it. And once that information is gathered, I have used all that information to inform the strategic plan that is created and crafted by the school board. The school board is responsible for setting the goals of the district. We do that in partnership, but we have to have community engagement as a part of that process. So I can't imagine that everything and anything is going to be thrown out. Stability in the organization is key. And whether it's myself or whether it's someone else, it's important for us to really think through who's in the seats, who's doing the work, what is the work being done, what are the salient issues, and how do we engage in strengthening that that's going really, really well, and in letting go of things that are going really, really poorly. And that information comes from the staff, that information comes from the community, that information comes from the school board, and all of those pieces gel to begin to craft a strategic plan.
Thank you. What is the most unpopular leadership decision you've had to make, and how did you address the reaction to that decision?
The most unpopular decision, the most difficult decision one has to make is the firing of personnel. It impacts someone's home life, it impacts their students, it impacts their team, and it's something that you actually can't talk about because it's a personnel decision. And so people fill in the blanks, right? They make up a story. And so the most difficult thing is when you have to inform that team that their leader has been moved on or moved over or whatever has happened. And then help that team begin to heal and move forward. Because hiring and firing is the worst thing you have to do as a leader. It's the worst. No matter how you feel, it's the worst thing you have to do. And so through constant conversation, through constant commitment to being there with that team, to helping them to identify who those leaders are going to be for them, and then to give them support along the way so they can do good work. That's work that I've had to do in several districts and work that I will probably have to do in my near future.
Thank you. Please describe your leadership experience in working with other governmental agencies such as the legislature, executive officers, and with the municipal government.
Well, like Trenton, Albany is also a state capital, and so one of our legislators happens to be a former board member, and you have to work with them and your senators. That's just the part of the work that you have to do as superintendent. That's work that I've been doing for many years, and as a result of that, together we were able to get our turf football field put in 6 months because we did that collaboratively. We're having an opening day in the fall. We were able to work through our high school issue, and so our new high school is going to be built over the next 7 years. We were able to do that to change some charter school legislation that was draconian for the district. So I've been able to do that work real well and have had strong ties with those bodies.
Thank you. What evidence or examples can you cite that would indicate your success in gaining board, staff, and community support for educational programs?
I believe I would point to the community schools model in northern New Jersey that we put together. That has been a powerful tool in which we've been able to bring our parents and families together around that community school as they decide what they needed that school to be and come and work together to make that happen. I would point to that as a way to bring people together around the program. Community schools is a program per se, and so I think that would be something that I would speak to. I would speak to the Cradle to Career Network we have with the Strive Network. We have a Cradle to Career program. I shouldn't say program, we have a Cradle Career Network that includes Chamber of Commerce, includes SUNY Chancellor, it includes the mayor, it includes social agencies in order for us to move a variety of projects from early childhood to middle school to high school. And so I would point to both of those as strong efforts of community engagement that are going to result in a better academic life for our kids.
Thank you. What problem, if any, have you experienced in meeting state and federal special education mandates? If any, how did you resolve the problem?
The resolution is not completed yet as of this day. We in the district where I am have been historically been cited for overrepresented over-representation of Black and brown students in special education, over-representation of Black and brown students in the discipline system. That is something that I inherited. However, one of the pieces that we've done is really work with an external provider to work on us talking about institutionalized racism, talking about for our schools and for our leaders. That work is ongoing right now, and obviously the year is not out, so I don't know what that data is going to say at this juncture. But we have been cited historically, and I know that we put some things in place to stem that tide. I don't have those results as of right now because it began last year, but that's the work that's ongoing right now.
Thank you. How will you maintain a collaborative relationship with the district's collective bargaining units based on an ultimate goal to create an opportunity for all students to succeed?
Well, I am not one of those that works in isolation, and unless it's an emergency decision, I don't work in isolation or work in partnership. So my expectation is, like in other places, we're going to meet together as a collective group. We're going to talk about the issues that are salient, that continue to arise. We're going to problem solve together to create those solutions, and those solutions have to be driven to ensure that students are successful. We can't continue to continue to talk about adult issues. We have to eventually get to the children. And so I expect us to meet on a regular basis as a group, with all units, with separately in labor management meetings with each unit, in order for us to problem solve together the issues of the district.
Thank you. What do you consider the greatest leadership achievement that you've had in impacting student success?
Gosh. I cannot say enough how proud I am of the results of Albany High School graduation last year. Our Black and brown students had double-digit gains. We're talking 13, 14, 15% in 1 year. I can't speak more highly around that work, around the curriculum work that they did, the interdisciplinary work that they did, the commitment to attendance, the commitment to discipline, the commitment to keeping kids in school. That was a whole C-level change for that staff, and I know they're very proud of all of the work that they've done and all the work and support that we were able to provide to them as they move that dial. Likewise, I would point to, and you'll sort of smile, but I'll point to a suburban district where I was in Minnesota. And most people would say, well, why would you go there? That's because they decided to talk about race in an important way. They decided to tackle it head on. And as a result of that, they began to close the achievement gap, again, in double-digit gains, double-digit ways between their white students and their Somali black students. I'm very proud of the work that we did around race. It's an incredibly difficult conversation to have. I'm very proud of that effort that we did to hold those conversations, to hold the mirrors up to ourselves around those biases that we all hold, and to really tackle what it was we had to do differently to ensure that our students would be successful. Both of those, I'm very happy to have been able to provide leadership in those two examples.
Thank you. In New Jersey, the State Department of Education can take over a school district under certain conditions. In all instances where the state has exercised this option, it's been an urban district like Trenton. What is your plan to ensure that this does not happen to the Trenton Public Schools?
Well, again, I think that all the things that we've talked about previously, between a great conversation and leadership between myself and the bargaining units, to be very clear and focused on academic discipline and other areas in which we've got to tackle together, for the board to set the direction so that we're able to show that achievement, and for us to use those resources that are shrinking, in a more effective and efficient manner. All of those in combination, and the will to change. I've asked every single group, is Trenton ready for and willing and able? Do we have the will to change? Because if we don't have the will to change, then nothing will happen. And so we have to fundamentally call that question in order to drive that change forward. But I do believe that between all of those things that I've just mentioned, we can stay out of those errors and we can change the trajectory of our students. But we've got to decide that we're all committed to do so.
Thank you. As we come to a close for your participation in the forum, please take up to 3 minutes to indicate why you're the best candidate to be the next superintendent of the Trenton, that was my district, the Trenton City Public Schools. And a little caveat to that, where do you expect to be in 5 years?
I expect to be in Trenton. Okay. So, why should you choose me? Because it isn't a matter of just having passion without any skills to back it up. It isn't a matter of a want to mentality. I want to. I wish. It's a matter of you're looking at a leader that has the ability to help people implement the work that we need to do to succeed. I've had a wealth of experiences in a variety of places. And I recognize that those experiences have changed my worldview on what we can do. But what I do know is that I am able to bring people together. I am able to bring folks around a common goal. And when things aren't working right, I'm still able to be the champion and say, it's not quite working, but you gotta hold on and move on. We're able to put in place the vehicles for success and the accountability structure to hold all of us accountable for those outcomes. My passion is there. But passion won't do any good if we don't implement well and use our resources wisely. So between all of those steps, I actually do believe that Trenton can be a great place for us to change the trajectory of children's lives. It is not clear to me yet in this 2 days about the will. And I'm concerned about that. At the same time, that doesn't mean I'm not committed to help with the will, to lead from the front, to push from behind. And as we link arms and move forward, we've got to cross the bridge at Selma to get to the other side. We don't have an option. This is the last civil rights issue. And it's happening in Trenton. And I want to be the leader that helps us move beyond where we are to a space that no one actually believes we can do. I believe we can do it. I believe we can implement it. And I know that only through partnerships can we get that done. And I believe I'm the person that can build those partnerships, maintain those resources, gain more resources in order for us to do this better. I'm looking for a place to call home. I'm not looking for a job. Yes, of course, I need a job, but I'm looking for a place to call home. And the diversity of Trenton is a place that I believe I can thrive as a person, I can thrive as a woman, I can thrive in my faith, and I can watch my daughter grow up and live life tremendously in Trenton. So with that, I hope on all sides of my life, professional and personal, that I will have the opportunity to serve the citizens of Trenton. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard from both candidates. I want to provide one